We'll make you a movie. Your kind reviews. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio fan commentary. Yes, audio fan commentary. We are fans of this film, of The Godfather Part 3. Part 3. The Godfather Part 3. the third and final movie in the Godfather trilogy, directed once again by Francis Ford Coppola. This one was released, I think it was 1990 it was released, so quite some time after the first two. So yeah, this is a film that's kind of gets a mixed response, I think, among the fans of the first two films. Obviously, the first two were such masterpieces. This one seems to have suffered quite a bit. Although, do we love it? Well, you're about to find out. So I'm here with Jack once again, and Jack has very kindly agreed to join me on this one. And yep, just like before, this is a fan commentary, so we're not doing this for financial profit. This is just for fun. If you wish to follow with us, put your DVD and Blu-ray in the player and put your timestamp to 0, and then you press play when we press play. That's the only way we can do it, I'm afraid. No, we can't show the image of the film for legal reasons. So, Jack, is there anything you want to say before we kick this thing off?
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
Okay.
That's what Michael says in Godfather 3.
Oh yeah, right. So, do you want to do the countdown, or shall I do it?
It's okay if I can do it.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
1, 2, 3, go.
Oh yes, I've not seen this film for years.
Actually, I haven't seen it in a few years as well. The Godfather 3, which came a long time after the second film. The first film came out in 1972. The second came out 2 years later in 1974. And this one came out in Christmas 1990. So 16 years after the second film.
Wow. Initially, was it just going to be the two films, or why did it take so long to make the third one?
Well, the reason why I didn't make the third one was because Francis Ford Coppola, he wanted to leave it at 2 films, but then he had the idea of showing us the last chapter of Michael Corleone's life, and he didn't want to call it The Godfather 3. He wanted to call it The Death of Michael Corleone. And the studio said to him, "No, call it The Godfather Part 3." And he wrote it once. He wrote it once again with Mario Puzo. Initially, they wanted 6 months to write the script, but the studio only gave them 6 weeks. So,
Oh wow!
yeah.
So not a long time.
This footage here is actually footage from The Godfather 2. It's unused footage from the second film that they incorporated into the third one.
It's a good idea.
It's now been several years since I moved to New York, and I haven't seen him as much as I would like. I hope he will come to the ceremony of being honest.
So how many years have now passed since the second film?
I think 15 years.
Oh right, yeah. So they do play it in pretty real time. So yeah, this film is a great film. I think it's severely underrated. It's a great redemption arc for the character, and yeah, I liked Al Pacino in this film. He gives a very different performance than he did in the second one. The second one, he just goes. It gets so intense and so dark, and you really feel like there's no going back for the character. But this film, I like that he does repent, and he realizes what he did was wrong, having his brother killed, and he has to live with that guilt, and it looks like he's been damaged from that.
Yeah. I like the Catholic sort of guilt stuff they're going here, like the Catholic guilt and the redemption angle they're going for here. Yeah, I mean, the film I think gets unfairly trashed by some people. As a lot of people say, "Oh, there's part three. It's terrible. It's awful. It's one of the worst sequels ever made." Like, it's on Nostalgia Critics' top 11 worst sequel to Godfather 3. I've seen a lot of people trash this film over the years, and I'm not going to say it's on the level of the first two films, but I think it's a good sequel, and it had such a hard, you know, image to follow. You know, I mean, the first two are considered the two great, like the Godfather 1 and 2 are considered two of the greatest films of all time. So to do a third one, you know, of course it's going to disappoint people. You know, like, and you know, I mean, it would be so hard to make a third film that was just as good as the first two. You know, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is also, looking at IMDb, this film has a 7.6 out of 10, so I think people like it. It's considered good, but it's just not considered to be great, which is a real shame. Like the first two, I got 9 out of 10s on IMDb, but I do think it's, you know, it is unfairly trashed. And I think it's very good. I think it's a very good film. It may not be a masterpiece, but like you say, I think it's very good, and I think as a trilogy, it works. So I don't blame him for wanting to make a third.
No, I mean, I think the redemption arc works because, you know, I like the stuff at the start where he's writing a letter to his family and he's saying, "Oh, I miss you, Anthony." Like he misses his son, he misses his daughter. You know, and you know, and I like that flashback there that we just had. Like, you know, we had the flashback of Fredo getting shot, and it's interesting in this film that he has to live with that guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, he's finally confessed to his sins. You can see in his face how kind of much of a wreck he is, really. And that's the thing about these movies. They deal so much with the theme of corruption and how, you know, power corrupts and how far that will take you. I mean, Michael clearly became mad with power, and he's now trying to find an ounce of redemption in his life. Obviously, it's going to be hard for him because he, you know, his brother, you know, he had his own brother killed, and that's hard to live with. That's something hard to live with. But yeah, I think this film, you know, like the first two, it starts with like a happy event, and then everything kind of goes on a downward spiral, doesn't it? So yeah,
Yeah. You know, originally they had a different opening to The Godfather 3. The scene where Michael goes to see the priest in the bank, they were originally going to have that as the opening of the third one, but they changed it.
And again, it looks great on Blu-ray.
Eli Wallach is really good in this. The guy played Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He plays the Don in this, the guy with the cane.
Ah. I like the his kids, and then they're all grown up in this. Is it Vincent is his son, isn't it?
Yeah, Vincent Mancini. Yeah,
and then Mary.
Yeah, he's Sonny Corleone's illegitimate child. Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry, no, because Anthony is Michael's son, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then Mary is daughter. Yeah.
The only real problem I have with this film is probably Sofia Coppola, but that's probably it.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, she's proved that she's a much better director than she is an actress. But yeah, she's obviously inherited her dad's talents.
I mean, the year this came out, there were so many other great films that came out that year. You had Goodfellas by Martin Scorsese, which was another gangster film, but it was a much more brutal depiction of the mafia. It was a much more brutal and unromantic film about the mob. And you had, I think, New Jack City that year and King of New York, and you also had Dances with Wolves, the Western film, Kevin Costner. But I mean,
Hmm.
there are some people who go on about how bad this film was, but it was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Picture. So it can't have been that bad if it was nominated for 8 Oscars, including
Yeah,
Best Picture. You know.
exactly. Yeah, it was nominated for. I've got the list up here. Best Picture, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Andy Garcia. Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Set Direction, Best Editing, Best Music, Original Song. So I'd say that's very good.
Yeah.
I guess the critical reception was much better than the audience reception.
Yeah, it's got 68% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Oh, that's
which
a
is
shame.
good. I mean, 68% is good, but not amazing. Amazing, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you say, it probably is the weakest of the trilogy, but I still really like it, and I think it is worthy as a completion to the trilogy. You can't really. I think the series needed a third one just to really show Michael's redemption, and I think it was important to do that. Oh yeah, doesn't his daughter? Oh yeah, Mary has a bit of a thing for Vincent, doesn't she?
Yeah, it's a little bit incestuous because they're cousins, and they kind of both fancied each other when they were younger. I think the main problem with the film that people point out is Sofia Coppola. And Sofia Coppola, I mean, I don't think she's like horrendous in this film. Like some people say that she's, horrendously bad. I mean, she's not very good, but I don't think she's like awful. I'm
Yeah,
like when I see her on the screen, when I see Sofia Coppola on the screen, I'm not offended by her presence. But I think Francis Ford Coppola could have got somebody else to play Mary. But yeah,
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, she's not. I've seen worse. I've seen much worse. She's very stiff. She's very wooden. But at the end of the day, she's good looking, and she fits. She fits the part. But maybe there could have been more accomplished actresses to take it on. But like I said, she's a better director than she is an actress. She's made other films in the future, like Lost in Translation. She made that. Um, yeah, I don't think the film deserves to be hated just for that. Yeah, she is definitely the weakest in the cast, but it's not unwatchable.
yeah. Originally, Francis Ford Coppola wanted Winona Ryder as Mary, but she backed out at the last minute. Reason he did because Winona Ryder turned out ill. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, they are a very dysfunctional family, aren't they?
they make the Simpsons look civil.
I call you Don Homer. Grazie.
Well, I'm gonna turn my audio down. I'm gonna turn my audio down because I don't want to get copyright struck.
Yeah, I've got mine on 10, so I'm not going to put you lower than that, otherwise I won't hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's also nice to see Diane Keaton back in the film as Kay.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's much older now, but it's good to know her and Michael are they're on civil terms at least.
You know what's interesting about Talia Shire's character is the fact that she like her character in this changes a lot. She's a lot more on Michael's side. She's on the side of Michael and the mafia and all that. She's changed. Like her character changes from each film. In the first film, she's quite emotional and distraught. The second film, she's sort of sleeping around with men and not giving a shit. The third film, she's sort of she's more controlling and dominating, and she's sort of loyal to Michael. But yeah,
Is that Connie?
Connie, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, probably because she knows that Michael's sort of damaged from all the stuff in the past with being the Godfather, and I guess she's kind of the person that needs to sort of hold the family together, because Michael's so damaged and whatnot. But yeah, like I say, she's had a very interesting character arc over the 3 films, I think. Every character actually has had a good arc over the 3 films, to be fair.
Yeah. I really like the scene between Kay and Michael because they haven't seen each other in years, and she still despises him because of what happened in the second film. Like, she knows that Michael killed Fredo, and she also knows of the bad stuff that she's done. So I kind of like the tension between them in this film. Like, she hates him because of the events of the second film, and it's been years since they've talked to each other, and yeah.
Yeah, but she's at least talking with him, for the kids. She's trying to be civil for her children, I think.
I mean, I will say once again, the cinematography and the costumes and the sets, it's all beautiful looking. Like,
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing Francis Ford Coppola can do, is he can make a film look beautiful. That is one of his many talents. Again, love the sepia sort of look for this film, and it definitely looks like it belongs with the first 2 films. Yeah. No, he's and again, the person who lit the film did a great job as well. It doesn't look as dark and as bleak as the second one, which I think is fine because this film isn't as dark as the second. It's still just as emotional, but yeah, I think the second one really just took things up to its peak, really, with how dark and brooding it was. I mean, not that the first one wasn't, obviously.
It's interesting that Anthony wants to become a musician, and his dad, Michael's saying, but you're doing a lawyer course. Finish being a lawyer, finish your course on being a lawyer, and then become a musician, And Anthony's like, no, I want to become a musician. It's my love, Yeah.
And so I suppose he's trying to be a good dad to his son, but yeah, nice.
What's interesting about his son as well is his son is like Michael in the first Godfather. Michael's son wants nothing to do with the mafia, wants nothing to do with the family business. It's just like Michael in the first film. Michael didn't want to become part of the mafia. Michael didn't want to become part of the family business. So Anthony's kind of like his father in the first film. Like, he doesn't want to be like him. He doesn't want to become part of the mafia or anything like that,
Yeah. I mean, now Michael's not really that. He's not that involved with the Godfather anymore, is he? He's just sort of put that in his past, doesn't he? And tried to forget about it.
No, he's still the Godfather, but he isn't.
What was that? Sorry, you broke up there, bud.
I said, Michael is still the Godfather, but he's just not as powerful as he once was.
I
spent my life protecting my family.
I guess these two were just they thought they were compatible, but they became incompatible because of Michael and everything he did in the second film.
I like the bit where he said, "I hate you." She's like, "No, I don't hate you. I dread you." Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting thing to say, really, isn't it? Like, she probably did hate him back all those years ago, but now she just, yeah, she doesn't want to be in the same room as him.
I think the dialogue here is really good. I like the fact that they're not just back together again, like, you know, husband and wife. I like the fact that there's still that history, there's still that tension. You know, she realizes that Michael didn't want to become part of the mafia, and, you know, she realized he didn't want to do all those terrible things, but that's the person that he became. You know, and she just
Yeah.
can't stand that. You know.
I mean, to be fair, if she did get back with him, that would make a pretty shit film. It would kind of be a detriment to Michael's character as well if they got back together. Because, while he probably is very sorry for what he did to her, he knows that she will never take him back because she's got her head screwed on. She can tell right from wrong, and if she just forgave him like that, then that would be wrong. I mean, because he put his own kids' lives at risk in the second film, and like you say, she knows he killed Fredo, so she didn't want her kids to be around a murderer, essentially. So, yeah.
Especially a man who murdered his own brother,
Yeah.
I mean, what I like about this film as well is that it's like Michael's kind of going through a midlife crisis. He's in his 50s in this film. He's in his early 50s or mid 50s, and he's going through a midlife crisis. He's realized what he's done. He's realized how much hurt he's caused. He's killed all these people. He's killed his brother. He's pushed his family away from him. He's pushed his wife away from him. He's pushed his son away from him. The only person that's kind of close to him is his daughter. His daughter's the only one who's close to him. His son and his wife, they're very distant. They're very distant from him, and he's trying to rectify his mistakes. He's trying to make up for the sins of his past.
Did he not divorce from Kay, or are they still legally married?
No, they're divorced. Yeah, I think.
Oh, they're divorced. Oh, he never remarried then.
Yeah. There he is. There's the ugly, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right there.
Oh, it's a bit harsh.
That's what he's called in the film, the ugly.
I mean,
can you imagine if Clint Eastwood just came, "Hey, bloody, bloody."
Jesus, you're just so ugly.
Ugly.
He's just so ugly.
I love trees, especially the Godfather tree.
Yeah. Save the trees.
I mean, to be honest, I have to say this trilogy puts the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy to shame.
This trilogy.
Would you agree this puts Would you agree the Godfather trilogy puts the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy to shame?
Ask me again after I've let off some jizz. Anyway, back to the film. Yes. Yeah. So I guess it's interesting to see Michael still has the duty of being the Godfather, but I suppose, like you say, he's obviously not as extreme with it now. He's just kind of, I guess, doing whatever the business requires, but not going so far in like killing people and everything. He's learned to kind of do it in the way it should have been done, I suppose.
Yeah. One thing I will say that's kind of sadly missed is Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall, Francis Ford Coppola wanted Robert Duvall back as Tom Hagen, but Robert Duvall, Al Pacino was getting paid much more than Robert Duvall, and that pissed Robert Duvall off. And like he said, would have been acceptable if Al Pacino was paid twice of him. But he said, I think Robert Duvall said the fact that Al Pacino got 3 or 4 times the amount of money he was going to get for The Godfather 3, he thought it was unacceptable. So that's the reason why Robert Duvall doesn't return as Tom Hagen. He
Yeah.
He wanted more money essentially, and he wanted a. I mean, he thought Al Pacino was overpaid for the film, that he should have had, nearly the same amount of money as him. But yeah,
Well, fair enough. I mean, actors complain about that all the time, but yeah, think about people with real jobs.
yeah.
They don't get half as much.
I mean, personally, I don't mind that Tom isn't in this film. Like, they explain that I think they said he died of cancer. Like, he passed away like a few years ago. But yeah, it would have been nice if you had Robert Duvall back as Tom Hagen. But yeah.
I mean, they could have easily recast him, but I guess they thought there wasn't much more for the character to do, so they just wrote him out. I suppose that was the easier option, just to write him out and say, yeah, he died or something. So
I have to say, Joe Mantegna is very good as Joey Zaza. He's sort of he's one of the main bad guys, who's trying to take Michael out. And I think this is one of the reasons why Joe Mantegna was cast as Fat Tony in The Simpsons, because of his role in Godfather 3 as Joey Zaza.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love Fat Tony in The Simpsons. He's just so funny.
Yeah.
Got a stone in my shoes. The one who seems to be late.
This is quite a long opening, almost 24 minutes.
It doesn't bother me that much. I mean, I suppose they're trying to set up the story and the conflict and the characters, but
yeah. And I suppose
mean,
it was important for the very start to show the passage of time and sort of the aftermath of Fredo's death.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say that's good is this is the shortest Godfather film. It's only 2 hours and 50 minutes, and the first one was 3 hours. The second was 3 hours and 20 minutes. So this is 2 hours and 50. So it's about half an hour shorter than the second film, and about 10 minutes shorter than the first film.
Yeah, I mean, it's still long, Well, I think it's it's fine. I mean, these movies deserve to be long. They have so much story and so many characters to cover. So, I mean, the second one actually moved very quickly for a 3 hour, 20-minute film. I was very surprised.
Yeah. I think Andy Garcia here is very good as Vincent Mancini. I mean, I've seen Andy Garcia in a few things. I've seen it, like he was in the second Pink Panther film, and he was Steve Martin, and he was also in The Mule with Clint Eastwood. I mean, it's kind of a shame Andy Garcia never had a huge career after this film, but he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's been in a few tiny little things, but yeah, it never really took off, did it?
Yeah.
Out of the kindness of his heart.
Do you think Michael was a bit depressed in this film? He seems quite down. Like, he's obviously probably consumed with grief from what he did to his brother.
Yeah. I think he is a bit depressed. I mean, he has guilt for what he did to his brother. I think he also has guilt for pushing his family away. He has guilt. He has guilt because he killed his brother, but he also has guilt because he pushed his family away.
Yeah. I think Pacino is great, actually, in all three films. He plays very different sides to Michael. The young side in the first one, the sort of the real Godfather side in the second, and now him older in the third one.
Yeah.
Bastards and liars, Shakespeare wrote poems. What am I doing, guy?
I mean, he definitely deserved that Oscar nomination for this film.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, but like you say, he should have won it for the second film.
Yeah. No. I'm talking about Andy Garcia. Pacino wasn't nominated for this film, shockingly. But
oh right,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it's true. anyone would say such a thing, it would not be a friend, it would be a dog.
I kind of like the look on Vincent. Sorry.
You don't know how much you're into those odds, Uncle Michael.
Yeah, you can definitely see that Vincent is Sonny's son. You know, he's very much like how James Caan was in the first one.
I need more lawyers.
You know, it's kind of interesting that Michael doesn't know that Joey Zaza is the guy sticking the knife in his back. Like, you know, Joey Zaza, you know, he pretends he's his friend. He pretends, you know, oh, Michael, I think you're great and all that. But in reality, he's saying, fuck Michael Corleone, you know, fuck him. I want to get rid of him, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. He made his ear bleed.
Yeah. At the same time, your guy had it coming. Your guy, he should have just hugged Vincent instead of calling him a bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Why should I be afraid of Joseph?
I think you can see in his face, Michael doesn't want to do this anymore. I think he's had enough. He's had such a tragic life, and I think he just wants to rest and support his daughter and his son. And yeah, he doesn't want to do the Godfather role anymore.
You know what's interesting about this film as well is, I mean, Al Pacino wasn't that old when he made this. I think he was in his 40s or mid 40s, maybe late 40s. But they made him look older. They've given him this haircut and made his hair very grey. They did a really good job, like with the aging makeup on his face and the way they've cut his hair and, you know, sort of dyed it grey and stuff and made him look older, you know, than he actually was when he did this. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the aging makeup is great. I mean, it's, again, easier to make someone look older than younger. But yeah, he sells sort of the age as well. There's a sort of tiredness in Michael's eyes in this one. You really do feel like he is weary and he's tired, and he doesn't want to have all the hardships that he used to have.
I like that Francis Ford Coppola hasn't forgot about the family. Like, they got this family photograph here. He hasn't forgot about the family aspect of these films. He hasn't forgot about the family drama and the family aspect of the whole trilogy, you know, because, I mean, the films have the mafia in them, but the trilogy is mostly about family. That's what the trilogy is about. It's about family and loyalty and betrayal and grieving and, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're very emotional films, and rightly so. They are about a family, and it's a very interesting story about, you know, again, power corrupts, and how the mafia, how dangerous the mafia is, and how it affects one person's, you know, mentally, and also sort of how, you know, a family can be very dysfunctional. It's just like we get moments like this where he's dancing with his daughter, and, you know, the films make you invest in the characters and the story, which is why I like. Even though Michael could be argued as being very unlikable in the second film, that's why it's important to watch all three of them, because then you do see the journey of the character, and he is a good man. He was influenced by I guess his dad really was the person that was the catalyst for all this. But yeah, Michael is a good person. He was led astray in the second film.
Yeah, I love this dance with his daughter. You know, funnily enough, Francis Ford Coppola, his mum and his dad cameo in this film as extras in the background of this scene, which is nice. But yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I think there's also, this scene is lovely because, you know, so many dads like dream of taking their daughters to dance. There's this whole thing in America about the daddy-daughter dance, and it's nice. It's nice that this film showed a moment like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, one thing I will say about it is that I think the story and the characters and the emotion here is still very strong. And I mean, I think in terms of cinematography and the way it's shot and the, costume designs and stuff, I think it's on par with the first one in terms of the visual look, in terms of the shots, in terms of the costumes, the production design, the acting, the story. I mean, the only thing that sort of lets it down, the only thing that lets it down a little bit is Sofia Coppola, but she's my only real complaint of the film. The rest of the film, I don't really have any problems with. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very rare to actually find a third installment in a trilogy that is almost on the same level as the first two, and
Yeah.
this is one of those cases. Which for me, even though I wouldn't maybe say the third is as good as the first two, it may be a 9 out of 10, but I still say this trilogy is one of the best film trilogies of all time.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was a very hard task, to make a third film that's as good as the first two films. The first two films are considered two of the greatest films of all time. So to make a third one that's as good as two of the greatest films of all time, that's a really hard thing to accomplish.
Exactly, and especially so long after the second one as well. Like you said, 16 years. That's a long time. Yeah. Oh god, this is a dramatic scene.
But yeah.
I love the lighting in this scene. It's so dark and brooding and very atmospheric. It's really quite intense.
Yeah.
Could have told, man. What'd you say?
Oh,
You got man. Cut it through. Pretty fucking crazy. I already know this part. You ain't got it. Fucking like that.
he's bluffing. Yeah. It's interesting that this one's set so long after the first two. The first one was set during the 1940s, and the second one was set during the 50s. This is set during the late 70s, so quite a long time after the first two.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Drop the knife.
Yeah.
Hey, stop it! Good boy. Sit down, one talk.
Don't mess with the Corleones.
Well, he's not a Corleone, he's a Mancini. He's an illegitimate child of Sonny.
True, but he's got Corleone blood in him. So.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, there's that scene in the first Godfather where Sonny is banging that girl during the wedding scene. I think he's probably the son of her, but yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I'm assuming Sonny obviously didn't know about this about what's his name, Vincent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he knew, or if he did know, he didn't pay much attention to him.
You were gonna let them kill me! You pig, you sick fuck!
He wasn't gonna really let them kill her. He was just calling their bluff, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, look at the way this is like shot and lit. It's like a painting,
It's so almost sort of avant-garde. It's really artistic.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that he grabs her and they go to the bed and he closes the door. It's kind of funny that he fucks her after he murdered those two guys.
Yeah. Well, I guess he can charm. With his looks, he can charm anyone, even after a murder spree.
Yeah. It's interesting that Michael sees Joey Zaza as no threat. He's like, oh, Joey Zaza, he's a low-level gangster. He's a nobody. He doesn't see him as a threat because he's not a very big gangster. He's quite a small gangster in comparison to Michael. But yeah.
Mm. Yeah, well, little does he know.
Maybe they should fear you.
Yeah. I mean, actually, when I first saw The Godfather 3, I actually, like, when I first watched this on DVD, like 7 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever, like 7 or 8 years ago, when I first saw The Godfather 3, I watched the whole trilogy, and when I first watched the third one, I actually thought this was Pacino's best performance because he's so emotional in it, especially the last scene where he's crying on the steps. He's very emotional, and his character's changed a lot in this film, and when I first watched the trilogy, I thought actually this is Pacino's best performance, but I think the second film's his best performance. But I think maybe this is his second best performance. But yeah, because he gets
Yeah,
more
no.
to do here than the first one. But yeah,
He does. Obviously, a lot of the first movie centers on his dad, Marlon Brando as well. But yeah, no, this really is his redemption arc, and I like that. And again, he's just playing a completely different side to the character, which is nice. In the second one, he's ruthless and he's completely, consumed by, the Godfather role, so to speak, and he goes too far. But yeah, no, I agree. This is probably his second best performance. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna say to you, like, you sort of grew up in a Catholic family. Like, is there anything you recognize here, like in terms of communion and stuff like that, or the priests, or the churches, or whatever? Like, because you sort of grew up in a Catholic family, so like, is there anything like similar in these films to like your family, like in terms of communion, or the priests or nuns or whatever? I don't know, but
Well, yeah, when I grew up, there was, I was, first of all, my family not in the mafia, so that's the first difference.
yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that.
But yeah, the main things were really, no, because I went to a Catholic school as well. That was another thing, and I took Holy Communion when I was 7, and I was in the same church for most of my Sundays. We used to go to church every Sunday. We don't anymore, but yeah, there's not many differences. Obviously, there's this priest here, and yeah, it's not a huge amount of difference. But again, I in terms of my own Catholic beliefs, I don't really know what I believe, so I class myself as agnostic. So at the end of the day, I kind of when me and my sister got old enough, we sort of stopped going to church, and my mum sort of made us all go when we were younger, but now we don't anymore. Really, we don't really have time for it, and as well, yeah, I just don't know where I stand with the whole religion thing. At the end of the day, I thought to myself, I didn't get much out of church, if I'm going to be completely honest. When I used to go, I found it to be kind of boring. And again, I don't mean that to be disrespectful to anyone's beliefs. Of course not. They're totally entitled to believe what they are. And yeah, for a while, I did sort of believe everything in the Bible. And then as I grew older, I sort of questioned more things. And then I just thought, well, you know what? The world works in mysterious ways. I don't know what I believe. So there, I felt, well, I can be a good person in life. I don't have to go to church to show that I worship God or whatever. I could just be a good person to other people. So again, and then that was when I started to question things. But in terms of the way this film portrays it, I don't know. You'll have to ask me again when the film's over, because I don't remember this film very much. I'll have to watch all of it. But yeah, in terms of forgiveness of sin and everything else like that, they definitely cover that. So, I hope that,
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but I hope that answers your question to some degree.
Yeah, no, sorry if it was a bit of a personal question.
No, it's fine.
No,
It isn't too personal, of course.
Yeah. No, what's interesting is, I come from a completely different background. I come from a Protestant background, like Church of Ireland, and
Oh, get out of there.
Protestantism. You're Catholic and I'm Protestant. We're both Christian, but different religions, and of course in Catholicism you have the Pope and you have the priests and the nuns. Like, you know, in Protestantism, all you really have is like the Archbishop of Canterbury and, you know, some bishops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
And you.
yeah, yes, I am the Church of Jack. But that scene there, that scene there with the Catholic priest, that was supposed to be the beginning of the film. When he's talking to that Catholic priest there, that was supposed to be the opening shot of the film. But it's interesting as well. Like, this deals with stuff that happened in real life, because in this film, Michael in that scene there, he just said that, you know, he has, you know, he doesn't have anything to do with gambling anymore. He doesn't have anything to do with drugs or guns, or, you know, Michael's becoming legitimate now. He wants to become legitimate, and, you know, the church offers, like, the church says, if you give me, the church says to him, the priest says that, you know, if you give the church $7 million, we'll wash away your sins. You know, we'll wash away the sins of you and your family, and, you know, you'll begin a new life. And this happened in real life. The Catholic Church, you know, the mafia was giving the Catholic Church money. The Catholic Church was washing away the sins of the mafia in exchange for millions of dollars. I mean, this happened in real life, which is kind of interesting, like how this parallels what happened in real life. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to make as well, because yeah, where else? I mean, you know, the mafia are obviously they obviously they always see themselves as a business, and that's crucial. But the stuff they do is extreme. Like they murder, you know, they kill everyone. They basically use violence a lot of the time. So no wonder they want to sort of confess their sins. But I suppose, you know, some sort of mafia groups are quite decent, and they do actually have a soul. They have soul and they have hearts, and they do try and see the best in people, and they do try and see the best in themselves. So yeah, and it's good that this film recognizes that in the context of Michael and his past. You know, he is legitimately trying to make amends, as you said. So yeah, and I think he does, although at a cost.
Yeah, but it's interesting as well that he's giving all this money to the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church are saying to him, if you give us all this money, we'll wash away your sins. We'll wash away the sins of you and your family. So the Catholic Church is saying, we'll give you a fresh start in exchange for all this money. And yeah, this happened in real life, and it's interesting how they parallel this in this film. And I mean, that's the thing about like the mafia. Like the mafia, you know, the Italians are you know, Italy is a very Catholic country. The mafia, you know, they're Italian Americans, and, you know, like a lot of gangsters, you know, funnily enough, even though the gangsters kill people, a lot of Italian gangsters are very like religious, you know, very Catholic. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic, the fact that they would feel that they could actually take someone's life, you know, and, you know, have the choice to kill them or not in the palm of their hands. And I think that's an interesting thing, you know, but they don't sell out on their beliefs, but obviously they just commit, you know, murder. I mean, so obviously they break one of the 10 commandments in doing that, but their beliefs are always clear and solid. I like this scene between Michael and his daughter. It's a lovely sort of lovely moment. You can tell they're very close.
Yeah. You know, I think the closest person to Michael is Mary. Anthony and Kay, they can't. I mean, Kay can't stand Michael, and Anthony is annoyed about Michael because Anthony, his son, knows that Michael killed Fredo, his brother, and you know, like, I mean, it's interesting that Mary doesn't know that Michael killed his brother, and Mary's the one who's closest to Michael, you know, and Kay and Anthony are very distant from Michael, so Mary's really the only one that Michael has that's close to him.
Yeah, which obviously makes the ending very much more tragic. But I mean, does his son ever kind of see that Michael's changing, or does he just is he distant to him throughout the entire film, even to the end?
No, he sees that he's changing, and even Kay sees that he's changing. Kay and Anthony see that Michael is trying to change, but by the end of the film, that tragic event, it's already too late by that point.
Yeah, I suppose that's in a way that's karma, for what he did to his brother. He loses his daughter, and it's so tragic, very very true. I think the first time I watched this film, it nearly made me tear up. Actually, how tragic that was.
No, I remember watching your review, and you said the ending made you cry.
Yeah,
Which is understandable. Nothing to be ashamed about.
yeah. I mean, I don't cry at many films, but that was definitely one of them. Because the way it was done, it was beautifully done. Very very sad. Yeah, there was no words to really describe how tragic it was. But as an ending, though, it really works for Michael's character. I mean, obviously, we'll get to the end when we get there, but for now, I think the film is dealing with other things.
Yeah.
Jeez, we've been on 49 minutes.
It's interesting there. Michael said, "I've learned many things from my father."
In a way, I suppose you could kind of blame his dad for sending him down the sending him off the beaten track, so to speak, with passing the role of the Godfather to him. So in a way, his dad inadvertently sort of caused his downfall. Really, Michael's downfall.
Well. There's that scene in the first film where Vito Corleone, Michael's father, said, "Oh, Michael, I never wanted this for you. I wanted you to be a senator. I wanted you to be like a famous politician or something. I didn't want you to become part of the mafia." So it's not really his father's fault. His father never wanted Michael to become a member of the mafia, but because his dad was shot, Michael felt like he had to protect his father. And then, of course, Michael shot that police officer in that restaurant who tried to kill his father. And then he had to go into hiding. And then after that, he couldn't really escape being part of the mafia because Sonny had died.
Yeah.
Fredo couldn't have become the Godfather because Fredo wasn't intelligent enough to become the Godfather.
Yeah. So then Mike, I suppose, like you say, he's probably it was going to fall to him either way.
Yeah. No, I heard some people say the story of Michael trying to go legitimate and getting rid of the mafia, and working with the Catholic Church to get rid of the mafia and in his life, and I heard people say that's the story's boring, but I completely disagree. I mean, I find this interesting because this happens in real life. The fact that Michael is paying the Catholic Church millions to to clean his past. People say that. I heard some people say it's boring, but I mean, I completely disagree. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it's definitely the weakest of the three films. But yeah, I do like this angle of the story, and I think it was nice to end the story with some kind of levity, with Michael finding some redemption and working with the Catholic Church and whatnot. It's a very different film to the first two, I think, in that regard. But it's still just as emotional, I think.
Yeah.
Please try to understand.
I mean, this guy here, Michael's lawyer, he looks like Warren Beatty.
I suppose I can understand some people's reservations with this film. I mean, it had two very, very good films to follow. So there was a lot of pressure. Like you said, the first two are considered two of the greatest films ever made. So you know, but I think to say that it was crap was wrong. I think to say that it was only meh or crap or just decent, I think is unfair. I think it's a very good film. It's very well made. It may not be as interesting as the first two, but I think Francis Ford Coppola put everything he could into this. He probably knew it wasn't going to be on the same level as the first two, but he tried his best, and you can see that the passion and the detail in the technical aspects of this film and in the script, I think, are very good. And yeah, I think it's still like three fantastic films, one of the best movie trilogies of all time.
I mean, I still think it's as interesting as the first two. I think it's engaging as the first two. I can understand if people said this film was disappointing after the first two. If someone said to me, I found the third one a little bit disappointing after the first two, that I can understand. But to say it's crap or a piece of shit or one of the worst sequels of all time, like seriously, I have seen far worse. I've seen far, 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 far worse sequels than The Godfather 3, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to choose between The Godfather 3 or Spider-Man 3, I choose The Godfather 3, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Actually, that old woman there, that old woman with the white hair that is actually Martin Scorsese's mother. She makes a cameo in this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, they're all good friends.
Mm.
I mean, George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, they're very good friends. I mean, they've actually, George Lucas used to work with Francis Ford Coppola before he did Star Wars. He used to work for Francis Ford Coppola, and they're still very good friends to this day. Right.
Oh, that's good. Well, we all know who's the better filmmaker, though.
Yeah, George Lucas.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to add a few green screen effects onto Michael's face there, just to make sure that it looks good. Francis, I hope you're okay with that.
Sound like Kermit the Frog.
I'm Kermit the Frog. Piggy, do not ask me about my business. Oh, imagine if the Muppets did The Godfather. That'd be funny.
You broke my heart, Fredo. You broke my heart.
It was an abortion, Kermit, because this must all end.
Miss Piggy.
Don't you know me? Don't you know that that's an impossibility? That could never happen. Would be funny to imagine.
You're nothing to me now. You're not a brother. You're not a friend. I don't want to know you or what you do.
You're not a brother. You're not a sister. You're not a friend.
I'd like to thank Joey Salazar for writing this and drop him.
Hey, Joey.
It's a small time enforcer. You ever see him coming a mile? We should kill him before he goes. Affects your judgment.
That's one of my favorite lines from this film. Never hate your enemies. Affects your judgment.
New Jersey.
I'm expecting Tony Soprano to be here, like Christopher.
God, the lighting is great.
Costumes as well, and set design.
Oh yeah, you can see why the Academy went gaga for this thing. You know, I mean, you know, they could have sucked their cocks to this film.
You know, I'm glad this was the last Godfather film because I think 3 films was enough. You know, they were thinking of doing a 4th one, but I'm glad they they ended it at a trilogy. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the fourth might have been the first one that kind of would have been very bad. I just don't see how they could have continued the story. They would have had to have started a new story. Just don't see the point. You know, this film really is the end of the story.
Friends,
Yeah.
come here because our business together. Resolve business relationship.
Is it just me, or does Pacino's voice sound kind of grovelly?
Yeah, well, he smoked a lot of cigarettes, so that explains his voice.
Oh. Smoking kills.
Smoking is for joking.
Yeah, Piggy, would you like to puff the magic dragon with me?
I mean, I think the reason why his voice is grovelly as well is because of 16 years later. So the cigarettes and the alcohol and the fact that it was 16 years later, he's not going to be as young sounding as he did in the first two.
No, that's true. Okay, we are pretty much an hour into the film.
Yeah.
1 hour, 50 minutes to go.
All to make money. The rest of the family. Well, no, shows us. Is, I admit, an important. This picture is on the cover of the New York Times. Against the Esquire magazine award. The best dressed gangster. The news.
Oh, excuse me.
Maybe one day he will make all of you popular.
It's really a shame that this film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. It didn't win any of them.
Was it 7 or was it 8?
I think it was 7.
Sure.
Yeah.
Spanish in my family. That's American. You guarantee?
I think this was snubbed.
I agree.
I guarantee I'll kill anybody who does.
I'm sorry to say it, but Godfather 3 is better than Titanic.
Fair enough. Yeah, Titanic is it's a little overrated, but I still really like it. But I'm surprised that it won 11 Academy Awards. I don't know if it deserves that many, but it was a great film for what it was. But it was too long, over 3 hours.
Yeah.
You will not give, I'll take.
Maybe that's a commentary for another day. Titanic.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's almost as long as The Godfather 2.
Well, it's about half an hour shorter.
No, it's about 3 hours 15 minutes.
No, Godfather 3 is 2 hours 50.
No, I was talking about Titanic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, Eli Wallach, God bless him, man. He was such a great actor. I loved him in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and he's great here as this old man with the walking stick. Like, you know, he's pretending he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He pretends he's a innocent old man, but in reality, he's a deceitful little shit.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Good, Bad, the Ugly. That's a great movie. It's a very long film, but it moves along well for 3 hours.
Yeah. But this scene, I love this scene, the helicopter scene, where all the mob bosses get attacked by a helicopter.
There's so much tension in these films. Jeez, please.
Quite a great scene. This is one of my favorite scenes in the film.
God. That was dramatic.
Yeah, Joey Zaza, Joe Mantegna is the one who sent the helicopter to kill Michael and all those mob bosses. Yeah.
Fucking bitch.
I mean, for me, I think this is the perfect conclusion to the trilogy. I think this ended the trilogy on a very good note. And I think all three, for me, are masterpieces. Even this one, I think it's a flawed masterpiece. A flawed masterpiece, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's
didn't
my
know there
opinion.
was such thing as a flawed masterpiece, but well, yeah, I suppose even the greatest films ever made do have a couple of things that may not work.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of people say there's no perfect film, so
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even like my favorite film of all time, Return of the King. I have one nitpick with it, and that's it. Is at the very end of the film, they don't cheer for Sam. They cheer for Frodo, but not for Sam. That's the only thing I don't like about the film. Other than that, it's perfect. So yeah, and that's the film I say is my favorite film of all time. So yeah, in terms of the Godfather 2, I don't know what is maybe wrong with it.
yeah, I don't know either. I'd have to think about it, but yeah. It's interesting that Michael he's fed up of Vincent because Vincent is like, let's fight them, come on, let's fight Joey Zaza, let's kill him, come on. And Michael's like, stop acting like a child. You're like Sonny, stop getting so hot headed and angry,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's pretty much a younger version of Sonny.
Yeah.
Businessman. First and foremost, there's no other for the company. You tell him to leave, that he can live or he can die. Vincent, will you shut up?
Yeah, shut up.
Yeah. You know what I like about this film as well? Michael, he's older, he's weaker, and he's not as powerful as he once was. In the first and second films, like particularly the second film, he was so powerful. Now he's given up most of his criminal empire, and he's an older man, and he's weaker. He's weaker physically, he's weaker mentally, and he's weaker in terms of his power.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's almost a bit disgraced, really, as well, when you think about it. Like because he has less power, and he is old and weary, and yeah, it's just a completely different side to him, and you sort of feel that he's lost some of his power, and it looks like his health is deteriorating as well.
Yeah.
He's having a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
Well, at least Michael still has his sister as well, Connie.
Like I've seen people criticize Al Pacino in this film, say he's not very good. I'm just thinking to myself, are we watching the same film? Have you seen him emote in this film? He's amazing. I mean, that scene where it's like Fredo, and then later on where he's on the steps and he's screaming. Al Pacino's great in this film, and like I remember the nostalgia critics saying, "Oh, what happened to Al Pacino in this film? He's awful." I'm like, "Are we watching the same film?" you know?
Yeah. I think Nostalgia Critic he's great for some of his videos, but there are times I think maybe he overanalyzes a film. It's like you kind of read too far into it, and he's a bit overcritical, I think, sometimes. But I like his videos. He's a good guy, and he's a nice guy, and he certainly knows his stuff when it comes to film reviews, and he can be very entertaining.
Yeah. No, I've been watching Nostalgia Critics since he sort of started, and he's a great reviewer, but he does sort of over criticize sometimes, and yeah, he looks too deeply into a film when there's nothing there. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this priest here, this Irish priest with the spectacles, he's a real rat. I mean, he just he'll work with the mafia. No. I mean, this Catholic priest here, he's really corrupt. He's supposed to be a holy man. He's supposed to be part of the holy church, and he'll work with the mafia to get his way.
Holy in more ways than one.
Yeah, holy up his anus. One hour and 9 minutes. I think the soundtrack for this is really good as well.
Oh yeah, that's one thing that's been great about these films as well, is the music. The music is so iconic.
I think they reused that track from the end of the second one here. The scene where Fredo's about to get shot, they reused the soundtrack from that scene in the second film and this scene here in the third one.
I suppose Michael keeps replaying the event in his mind, He can't stop thinking about it because he's so consumed with guilt.
Yeah. It's interesting that Michael's sister Connie. It's interesting that Connie says to Vincent, "Yeah, do it. Kill Joey Zaza. Go in there and kill Joey Zaza."
It's almost kind of sad, really. Michael's kind of looking very sort of pathetic, almost. Really, he's just this weak old guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have experience of physical. Well, I mean, I don't have this experience, but I've had family members who've suffered from similar things to a heart attack, like brain bleeds and strokes and stuff like that. So this is kind of yeah,
it kind of hits close home for you
a bit. Yeah. I mean, apparently.
Sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, it's nice to see Kay there. I guess maybe this is the start of her realizing that he is trying to change and move on from what he's done. You can go ahead now, man.
No, it's interesting that his son now has become a musician, and she says to Michael, "Oh, he's going to make his operatic debut this Easter. Come and see him. When you're better. That's nice."
Oh yeah, it's the son's fault for becoming a musician. If he hadn't have done that, his sister wouldn't have died.
Well, his sister's alive.
Well, for now.
Actually, yeah, you're right. It is the son's fault, because if they weren't at that opera, the sister would never have died.
Yeah. But I suppose that's another tragedy to add to the list, is that maybe the brother Anthony feels probably slight amount of guilt for having the family turn up to the opera. But yeah, we'll get to the opera later.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I like about the third one as well is that it kind of ties up all the loose ends of the second film. You know, it explains to us what's happened to Michael. It explains what's happened to his family. You know, it kind of like the second film kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger with Michael killing his brother. Um, so yeah, like, would you agree this sort of ties up the loose threads from the first two?
Yeah, yeah, it does what the end of a trilogy should do, and you know, it does manage to tie up loose ends, and it sees the trilogy out on a very good note. Oh, I guess things are about to get a bit kinky for Mary and Vincent.
Incest.
Oh God, watch Game of Thrones, then you'll know what incest looks like.
You know one thing I'm glad about this film is they never show Mary and Vincent in bed with each other. They just show them kissing each other. They never show them like in bed together with their clothes off. Like, I'm glad they never showed us that. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kid you not. The very first episode of Game of Thrones has a brother and sister literally having sex. You know, there's so much incest in Game of Thrones. It just kind of put me off, really. I'm okay with watching a sex scene, you know, that's fine, but anything incestuous or also watching a rape scene, that it's uncomfortable, you know. And Game of Thrones is known for its gratuitous use of sex. This, like you say, is very tame and it's nice. I mean, you could just see this as a love story of sorts. Obviously, it is incestuous because they're cousins, but you do feel a degree of sympathy for the characters, or certainly for Mary, because she can't help how she feels, and that's the thing. It must be hard when you're related. But yeah, it'd be worse if it was her brother. Cousins is not as bad.
I mean, I kind of understand where he's coming from because I don't want to get into detail, but I have a cousin who's younger than me, and she's a female. And I mean, I never wanted to fuck her or anything, but I did find her kind of attractive when I was younger. But I never went up and had an incestuous affair. But
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah.
No, I've got a couple of younger, attractive female cousins, but yeah, again, you just admire from afar. You don't go there.
Yeah. No, you definitely don't go there. I mean, not only that, but like, I guess the children will be fucked up genetically,
Yeah, inbreds.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is also, it reminds me actually of, I don't know if you remember EastEnders when, what was his name? Max, his daughter, Lauren,
Yeah.
she had an affair with her cousin, who was Derek's son, Joey, I think his name was. Lauren and Joey had a romance of sorts. Yeah, so that was kind of awkward.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like, you don't see anything. You see them making some food together, and then they sort of kiss, and it cuts, I mean, these scenes here, these scenes in the parade, these parade scenes, they remind me of the parade scenes in the second film with Don Fanucci and Robert De Niro as the young Vito Corleone, Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a sort of reminiscence of that, but obviously that flashback in the second was much more, the sort of sepia look was much more heavily used. But no, I like the sort of sepia filters and tones of these films. It gives these films a very distinctive look.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Mantegna, who plays Joey Zaza and Fat Tony in The Simpsons, he's a really good actor. He was in a lot of other stuff before The Simpsons. Like, I think a year after this film, he did Bugsy with Warren Beatty, and that's another gangster film. And Joe Mantegna plays an actor in that, George Raft. But yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, people just know Joe Mantegna as Fat Tony, but he's done a lot of other great acting work on screen. You know, he's a very good actor. You know.
Mm. Ugh. Oh wow, we've watched 1 hour 18 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have much. We only have an hour and a half left.
Oh, it goes quickly actually.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the second film is much longer, but it's quite surprisingly brisk.
Oh yeah, he's fucking with Joey. He's scraping Joey's car, like fucking him off, pissing him off. Yeah.
He's winding him up. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit.
God. Now that's not very nice.
I love the symbolism in that as well. Like the way that like Christian figure falls on the floor. It's really nice symbolism. Like it's like the holiness is gone and now the holy figures fall onto the floor because of all this violence and evilness. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, want to repent, forgive your sins. Well, fuck you. No way.
Now there's Vincent.
Oh, but he's dead.
Joey Zaza.
Oh, so Joey's dead then.
Yep. He's only one of the villains.
Yeah, he doesn't want his nephew to turn out like him. I don't think like how he was in the past.
Yeah. This scene's good.
I command this family. Right or wrong. It was not. It was. I want it.
Yeah, Michael still sees himself as the head of the family. So he's still got some degree of power, but like you say, Vincent is just very hot-headed like his dad. So yeah.
I mean, Michael's still the Godfather, but he's coming to an end of being the Godfather. You know.
Yeah, it's sort of, yeah, you can see the role slowly kind of slipping out of his hands, and I think you can see Vincent actually really wants to be the Godfather. He wants the power, he wants the ability to do whatever he wants, make those decisions. But again, I suppose there's the fear that he will just turn out just like Michael. So
yeah. It's interesting that Michael's pissed off with Connie because Connie said to Vincent, "Yeah, kill Joey Zaza, go and kill him." And Michael's like, you know, Michael's saying to Connie, you know, why did you say that? Why did you say to Vincent, you know, kill Joey Zaza? You know, this is actually one of my favorite scenes of the film. It's such a tender scene.
yeah, like you said, there's so much importance on family in these films, and in this one, like he's trying to teach him the right way to do things. You know, it's like killing is not always the best way forward, and Michael learned that the hard way after he killed his brother. So yeah. I don't really understand why the film gets so much hate. You know,
Yeah.
it may be flawed, but yeah, I guess maybe because the first two were so highly regarded as two of the greatest films ever. This one was just seen as like, oh well, yeah, well that's not as good, so we just don't like it. It was just, I think, an extreme overreaction of the quality of this film, because it's very well made, but people don't seem to think it is, just because it doesn't match up to the first two.
I like that line. I like the line that Michael said to Vincent, "When they come, they'll come at what you love." You know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, they brought him flowers. How nice. I'm the band father.
Yeah, Eli Wallach. He's such a snake in the grass. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's like, "Oh, Michael, I'm your friend. I'm your friend, Michael." But in reality, he's like trying to kill Michael. You know.
Charming fellow. Yeah. Ugh. I suppose he's quite manipulative then, really. He's managing to put this farce of who he actually is. And yeah, masking himself.
Yeah, he's trying to pretend to be he's trying to pretend to be Michael's friend, but in reality, he's trying to fuck Michael over.
Yeah, as if anyone needs that.
Yeah. I love that they go back to Sicily as well. You know, it gives a closure. You know, it's kind of funny about the Lord of the Rings and the Godfather trilogy. The Lord of the Rings, like the star of the film is New Zealand, and the star of the Godfather films is like Sicily and Italy and all that.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, it's nice to show off great locations. I mean, New Zealand has never really been a film location until Lord of the Rings. So yeah, now people mainly know it because of Lord of the Rings. I had no idea where New Zealand was until I saw those films. So yeah, good old Peter Jackson. He brought the film industry to New Zealand.
Yeah. You know, I have seen a lot of people praise this film recently. Like my uncle hated the third one, but my uncle recently says he likes the third one now, and my mum said she didn't like the third one, and then she watched it with me a few years ago, and she likes the third one as well. So I've seen a lot of people change their opinion on The Godfather 3. There's this guy who did a really good essay on the film, and he said The Godfather 3 deserves reappraisal. And I've seen a lot of people change their mind on the third one. People who said they initially didn't like it. And I've seen a lot of people now say that they actually do like it. So it's interesting how people's opinion of this film has changed. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's good to hear that. I guess maybe on first viewing when the film came out in 1990, they just thought, oh, right, well, yeah. But no, it's nice to know that this film has been reassessed and people now do see the good things in it. So it's good that it's got some fans, even if they only like it and don't love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just realized.
I
Sam sent us messages. Hi, Sam. Good, thanks, man. Good, thanks. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to Sicily 3 years ago, and it's the most beautiful country on this planet. I mean, Sicily really is the most beautiful country in the world. Like, the women are beautiful, the food is delicious, the sun, the sand, the plants, the buildings. You know, it's just a beautiful country. You know.
Yeah, it's very hot though, isn't it?
Oh, it's extremely hot. The drivers are terrible, and the weather is really warm. But I mean, when I went to Sicily, there were so many chapels that I saw, so many old-fashioned villages, and I mean, it was really a beautiful country. I mean, I would love to go back there one day. If I ever have the money, I would love to go back to Sicily, or I'd love to go to Italy. It really is a beautiful country. Beautiful, a beautiful looking country, great food, really lovely people as well, amazing Catholic churches and chapels, and beautiful women, and nice people, and just a great country. Like, I would recommend it to anybody. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I don't do well in extreme heat, but I might go along there at some point. Obviously, post COVID, it would be nice to maybe go do a bit more traveling and see a few more countries. But I've never been the biggest fan of flying. That's the thing. I don't like flying on airplanes. It's just a very uncomfortable experience for me. Not even just the seating, just the whole taking off. I hate it. The fact that when you reach altitude, obviously your ears, with the pressure, your ears just start to pop and everything. I don't know why. It's just, for me, it's just very uneasy. But if the journey is short, I can deal with it. But if it's a long journey, then that's when I get very restless on planes. I can't even fall asleep on a plane, even if I'm very tired. But that's just.
If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Joking.
Oh, get you.
No, I mean, Sicily. Like, I remember when I went there a few years ago. The Italians and Sicilians, they don't like it when you mention the mafia, and I mean, I kind of wish more people would, think of Italy and think of Sicily as a beautiful place with beautiful people, instead of
The mafia.
like people. I think when people go to Italy and they go to Sicily, they're like, oh, mafia, Godfather, Goodfellas. I think of the mafia and stuff, but they should think about the good people there, and the nice culture, and the nice people, and like, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's important to appreciate a country for all of its beauty and and everything else, rather than the bad things. I mean, I'm not saying the mafia are all bad, but obviously they're not looked upon with great fondness. So yeah, and again, Sicily is an amazing part of these films. It's nice to come back.
I like Anthony's lyrical version of the Godfather theme.
Yeah, and it's nice that Michael's finally hearing his son do what he loves.
I love the flashbacks to the first film here and the second film.
Yeah, it really is kind of bringing everything to a close, isn't it?
Yeah. He's remembering his wife, and he's upset about it.
Yeah. He's a man who's lived with a lot of burdens in his life, and he's really had quite a tragic life, I think. A lot of death and a lot of misery.
Yeah.
This film is just beautifully shot. Look at the artistry, the color, and the angles are already good. There's just so much depth to it. You really feel like there's a big scope with the Godfather films. It's just it almost, you could almost describe them as epic. I mean, they are long films as well, so that could be another reason why.
Yeah. I think someone asked Francis Ford Coppola, like, do you regret doing the third film? And he said, if I'm being honest, The Godfather should have just probably been one film. But I'm glad it's a trilogy. I'm glad we got the second and the third film. But I think because a lot of people sort of hated on him for the third one, he said, oh yeah, there should have probably only been one Godfather film. But I'm glad we got a trilogy. I'm glad we got the second film, because the second film is like one of my favorite films of all time, and I'm glad we got this as well to end the trilogy. You know.
Yeah, exactly. No, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple of stiff lines, but you know, there's worse actors out there. I mean, can you imagine Nicolas Cage in that part? No, Dad.
Or
he
or
plays
Adam.
he plays himself at everything.
Oh, if you imagine Adam Sandler. No fucking way, Dad.
Oh God, Adam Sandler's just really annoying.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Let the incest begin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michael knows now, doesn't he, that she likes Vincent.
You know, Michael here shaving. It'd be
Yeah.
a great advert for Gillette.
Yeah. Gillette Pro 3.
The best a man can get.
Oh God, yeah. I just need to use the loo. I'll be right back, but keep your film playing.
Just when you thought you were out of the toilet, it pulled you back in. I mean, I don't understand the hatred towards this film. I understand The Godfather 3 was a disappointment after the first two. The first two are masterpieces. Like the first one is, you know, one of the best films of all time, and the second film is probably the best film of all time in my opinion, along with Raging Bull. And you know, the third one I think was always going to disappoint people because it came so many years after the second film. It came 16 years after the second Godfather film. And I think it was bound to disappoint people. Even if it was like a masterpiece, I think people would have still been disappointed in some way because it'd been so many years after the first two. And I mean, there's a lot of things that they do differently here to the first two. Like, you know, they focus more on the Catholic Church and redemption rather than action and the mafia. And, you know, I mean, this film is probably the less, like, it's probably the, you know, in terms of the mafia, it probably has the least amount of scenes with the mafia because Michael's trying to get rid of the mafia. He's trying to become legitimate, you know. And I think this, you know, this film, you know, compared to the first two films as well, like Michael isn't as strong as he was in the first two. In the first one, he defeated all his enemies at the end. The second one, he defeated all his enemies at the end. But by the end of the third one, he's defeated all his enemies except one or two, and that comes back to haunt him. And yeah, I mean, I love the character arc that Michael Corleone goes on. This character arc, this sort of, you know, he starts off as a good character. He starts off as a young man who comes back from World War II, and he wants to, you know, he wants something to do with the mafia. He wants to become a, he wants to be, you know, be a legitimate person, and then, you know, a good person, you know, good job, and get married and live an honest life. But then his father gets shot, and he decides to defend his father, and he kills the guy who shot his father, and then he becomes involved in the mafia. Then he becomes a monster, and he kills off all the enemies he has at the end of the first one. Then the second one, he descends into a dark pit of hell, and he kills everybody. He kills all of his enemies. He kills everybody that's a threat to him, and he even kills his own brother because his brother betrayed him. And then the third one, he's trying to seek redemption. He's trying to redeem himself for all the bad things that he did in his life, you know. Um, and you know, it's sad. You know, it's really sad and tragic, but at the same time, his character arc is one of the best arcs, uh, you know, in film history. You know, like, he's such a well developed and well written character, and he's not one dimensional. He's a very grey character. He's not good. He's not completely evil, and he's not completely good either. He's a very grey character, and like Michael Corleone's one of the best written characters in film. It's interesting as well how Michael is sort of trying to get Vincent to act like him. He's trying to make Vincent, you know, more calm, more reserved, more level-headed, less temperamental. You know, he wants him to think more like him and become more powerful. And logical and not as hot-headed, like Sonny. Yeah.
Politics. There's no when to put a trigger. Yeah. Blessed is the peacemaker, for he can be called the child of God.
Yeah, I mean, Eli Wallach, what a great actor. I mean, he passed away about 6 years ago in 2014, and I mean, he was an old man when he died. He was in his late 80s or early 90s, and I mean, he's such a great actor. Not just The Godfather 3, but Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Magnificent Seven. He's been in loads of films and TV shows over the years, and he's such a great character actor. And I mean, every time I see Eli Wallach on screen, he's just so full of energy. Such a great actor, um, and this is great. This is really great. This scene is great here, though. The scene where Michael confesses to the priest his sins. He confesses to him that he's killed his brother, and he's done many evil things, and he wants to repent for the past. And
Look at this stone. It has been lying in the water for a very long time, but the water has not penetrated it. Look, perfectly dry. The same thing has happened to men in Europe. For centuries, they have been surrounded by Christianity. But Christ has not penetrated. Christ doesn't live within them.
very powerful and emotional scene.
What happened? Is it possible that you could get me something sweet? Orange juice, anything, candy. Per favore, venuto d'arancia dei dolci.
And he's got diabetes in this, type 2 diabetes. It's interesting to see Michael such a wreck in this. He's such a frail wreck. He's diabetic. He's losing his edge. He's losing his marbles in a lot of ways, physically and mentally. He's lost his power. He's really, on the edge of a precipice. He's descended into, he's an emotional and physical wreck. There's nothing that anyone can do to help him because he's so grief stricken and emotionally stricken as well. Like, yeah.
It's true. To make your profession. Your Eminence, it's been so long. I would know where to.
It's interesting when the Catholic priest says to him, confess to your sins, and
Use up too much of your time, I think. I always have time to save souls. I'm beyond redemption. Potete andare via per 2 o 3 minuti, per favore? Grazie. I hear the confessions of my own.
this is probably one of the best scenes, not just of this film, but the entire trilogy, where Michael confesses his sins to the priest. Very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful and very emotional.
I hear you are a practical man. What have you got to lose?
His soul, that's what he's got to lose. Well, he's already lost it. I love the way this is shot. Like there's a gap in the bush there. There's a gap there. One side is that, and the other side is the other gap with the bush.
Go on, my son. Let me check myself.
Oh.
I killed men. And I only meant to be killed. Go on, my son. Go on. Jesus. Go on, my son.
It's very powerful.
I killed. I ordered the death of my brother. You forgive me.
Back.
We're on the scene with the priest where Michael confesses that he killed his brother to the priest. I think it's one of the best scenes in the whole trilogy, where he confesses that he killed his brother to this priest. You know,
Yeah. No, that's fine. Sorry, it took so long.
I mean, I was going to ask you, what do you think of the scene where, I know you haven't seen the film in a long time, but when Michael confesses to the priest that he's killed people and he's killed his own brother and he's crying, and the priest says, you know, I know you don't believe that you could be redeemed, but I can redeem you. You can be redeemed. I mean, what do you think of that scene? For me, it's not just one of the most powerful scenes of the third film, but of the whole trilogy, when he confesses all of his sins to the priest, and the priest saying, like, I know that, you know, you don't believe you could be redeemed, but you can be redeemed, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very powerful scene, and it's a very emotional scene. As you say, yeah, Michael is totally breaking down, and I guess, you know, he's been trying to bottle up how he really feels, and yeah, it's nice. It's a great scene as well to know that he will get a shot at redemption.
I mean, I was also saying this as well. I think Michael Corleone's one of the best written characters in cinema history. The journey that he goes in all three films, like the first film, he starts off as a war veteran who doesn't want anything to do with the mafia. Then he becomes involved in the mafia and he becomes evil. Then the second film, he goes into this dark pit of hell. And then in the third film, he's trying to redeem himself. I mean, would you agree he's like one of the best written characters in film? Like just the story arc in all three films. Like,
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with everything you just said. Yeah, and it's great, and this trilogy is really his journey. He is the main character in these films, and he goes on the biggest journey, and his actions impact so many people around him.
yeah. No, I love the fact that he says, you know, I killed men and have ordered men to be killed. You know, I ordered the death of my brother. He injured me. I killed my mother's son. I killed my father's son. And then he starts crying. Like, the way it's shot and everything, like, you know, I mean, he realizes the evil that he's done. You know, he realizes that he's done so much evil, and he's trying to redeem himself. He's trying to make amends with his family and make amends with himself and make amends with God for, you know, what he's done. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the fact that Connie's a lot closer to him in this. Like, Connie says, "Oh, I'll always love you, Michael. I'll always help you." You know. Yeah.
Oh, this is a really lovely scene. When they embrace, and she's there for him. It's nice to know that he's still got one sibling left, and that's his sister. And you know, I guess she's been sort of there, you know, seeing him change, and now she's prepared to help him, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the hitman that Eli Wallach. He hires this hitman here to kill Michael. Yeah.
Mm. Bastard!
The father hates that. Like the father thinks the son's acting like an idiot when he does that donkey thing. Like the Dawn's trying to take the piss out of him. You know.
That's the thing, as we said last time in the previous commentary. When you're in the mafia life for so long, it's very hard to get out of it.
Yeah. He's saying to him. Yeah, he's saying to this assassin, "Yeah, kill Michael." Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right about, if you're in the mafia, it's very hard to get out. Like, there's that guy, Michael Francis, who's an ex-gangster, and he became a born-again Christian, and he left the mafia, and, he's preached about the dangers of the mafia, and he says, never join the mafia, and he's become a Christian now, and he's changed his ways, and, he said, like, this ex-gangster said, anybody who's had a family, and anybody who's families, it destroys their lives, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the point that these films make, well, especially the second one, with how damaging the mafia can be.
Yeah, all three of them. I mean, and this one as well, when Michael loses his daughter. Yeah. It's nice as well that he sort of makes up with Kay. Like, the Kay starts to realize that Michael has changed and Michael's trying to change, trying to become a better person.
Yeah, and there they are, sort of walking with their daughter, which is nice, and it's a lovely moment. You get some nice tender moments before the tragedy happens at the end of the film.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to let you talk a bit because I think I've talked a lot more in this commentary. I want to let you say a few things,
Oh no, that's fine, man. Go ahead. I mean, I will chip in when and where I can. I mean, I probably don't have as much to say as you do. But,
Yeah, I mean, this film's set 41 years ago, 1979.
That's interesting. Yeah, yet it was released in the 90s. But I suppose that it needed to be set then because of the time jump after the second one.
Yeah. One thing I will say, the soundtrack here is very good, but they kind of reuse soundtracks. Well, I mean, the soundtrack here is very good, but they do reuse tracks from the first two. Maybe it's the weakest soundtrack of the three films, but it's still a good soundtrack,
Yeah, perhaps so. Yeah, you could argue that maybe that is a criticism.
These guys are going to assassinate Michael.
We have an hour left.
Yeah. All I'll say is, George Lucas, this is filmmaking, not the Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones.
Now, for someone who claims to be a good friend of Francis Ford Coppola, you would have thought that Francis would have given George some notes or some tips about how to make a film.
Yeah. You know what I like? The way Anthony did that drawing of Michael in the car from the second film? Like Michael just gave Anthony that drawing for the second film that Anthony did as a little kid. It's a nice callback to the second film.
Yeah, that is nice. Well, who's the little girl?
I think she's like a relative of Michael's. Like, I think it's his like niece or something. I quite like this. Bonjour, signore. I'm at your service.
Everyone gets quite a lot to do in this film.
Yeah.
Anything happens to Michael, I will just like that.
I don't have everything.
It's interesting that Vincent's trying to act like Michael now. He's trying to be more calm and collected and level-headed and, you know, not as angry as Michael. Sorry, angry as Sonny. Yeah.
Yes, and I guess that's the point that they make with him, is that he may be like his dad, but he's not completely. He does have a shred of self-control in him.
Yeah. I mean, Sicily's a very poor country in a lot of ways. Sicily's very rich, but it's very poor as well. Yeah.
Or maybe they just don't put their money to the best use.
The thing is, they're trying to get rid of the mafia in Sicily, but the mafia, because of this whole coronavirus, the mafia have been handing out baskets of food, and they've been giving money to businesses who've been affected by COVID. The mafia have, yeah.
It's nice that they walk past this wedding here. I guess that's kind of meant to reflect how their marriage sort of panned out. I guess it's a symbolic thing that Coppola wanted to portray in this moment.
This is shot so well, like.
Yeah, it's shot just as well as the first two, I think.
Same, yeah. It sort of has that sepia, that sort of orange, sort of gold sepia tone of the first two as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what works about these films. That has become the sort of iconic look of these films, the way they're lit and they're shot. They're very artistic films.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've watched the third one on Blu-ray, and the picture quality is amazing. Like, it looked like it was shot yesterday.
Oh yeah, it does look very good. I mean, also it is the most recent one, in obviously being in 1990. So that's still, I mean, that's nearly. It's 30 years, isn't it? 30 years old. So
Yeah.
I guess it's considered a bit of an old film now, but it still looks pretty
current. I mean, 30 years ago isn't that long ago. For me, an old film. For me, a film that is old is like a film from the 30s or the 40s. You know, a black and white film. That to me is like an old film. You know, yeah. It's interesting that he's sort of gaining her trust again. He's sort of, gaining her trust and, making her like trust him again. Which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. This is his way of saying sorry as well for all the shit he put her through in the first two films.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh shit. Shot him. I mean, for me, this just kind of. I mean, like I remember you said in your review of the second one, at the end of your review of the second one, it's interesting how it's all going to end in the third one, and I'm glad they did a third one. I mean, I'd have been happy if they ended it with the second one, but I'm glad they ended it with a trilogy because the second one kind of left you with a lot of answers, like what happened to Michael after Fredo died, what happened to Kay after Fredo died, what happened to the family after everything went to shit,
Yeah, you did
Yeah.
kind of feel like you wanted to see the aftermath of what happened and what would happen for Michael, especially. And yeah, I think it was nice that the third film explored that. I mean, I suppose it was the best plot they could have gone for, really. It's just a shame it wasn't received as well, but oh well. I think nowadays people, like I say, some people like it, so that's good. There are far worse sequels than this.
I'll tell you a worse sequel than this, The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh God, yeah, those films don't exist in my opinion.
Curse of the Pink Panther.
Yeah, doesn't exist.
Superman 4.
Doesn't exist.
Batman and Robin.
Pass finito non point. 50 minutes left.
I like the fact he's trying to like break the ice with her and trying to like say to her that I'm sorry, I'm sorry for what I've done, I still love you and all this,
Yeah. Because it's hard for sort of both of them as well, especially as they have kids. It's they've got children who are almost grown up. So do they just bury the hatchet and continue to be civil, or does she continue to just try not to see him? But I think it's nice that he's making the effort to do this, and like I say, he is trying to apologize.
Yeah.
Hmm. So Doug Walker hates this film then?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, it's quite a sad scene, really.
Yeah.
So much tragedy in these films.
This is such a beautiful scene.
Oh, they were sort of I guess childhood sweethearts. Really, they sort of knew each other since very young.
No, I mean, what's sad about the trilogy is Michael's sort of descent from being a good young man to being this evil, corrupt boss of the mafia, and then trying to redeem himself and trying to make amends for the sins of his past.
Yeah, it's. I guess it's a sort of a tragic story, really, about a man who falls from grace and then tries to redeem himself.
It's interesting that you see the look on her face. She's like, oh yeah, you're still the same mob boss. You're still the same evil mob boss, and he just wants to get rid of that. That's the whole point of the trilogy, is that Michael never wanted to become the Godfather. He never wanted to become evil. He wanted to, be there for his wife and his family, but unfortunately his father and his brother died, so he had to become the Godfather. Like he said, what could I do? My dad was nearly killed. My brother was killed. I had to become the Godfather.
Yeah, because I was the only one left who could do something with that.
John Paul, I think he was a real Pope, John Paul the First, and yeah,
Yes, he
it's
was.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to Vatican City, but yeah, but apparently it's the smallest country in the world.
Wow. It would be great to go there just to obviously see the Vatican itself. But obviously with COVID, there's no chance of that at the moment.
Yeah. This happened in real. Like, I think they found a guy hung from a bridge in London in the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing about the Godfather trilogy. They're based on historical facts. Like, yeah.
Hmm. But the characters are all fictitious, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, apart from John Paul the First, he was a real character.
Well, yeah, obviously not him, but I mean like the main characters.
Yeah.
Oh wow, we've got literally 45 minutes left.
Yeah.
So by
And
12 we'll be finished.
yeah. That scene with the guy on the phone in his office, that looks so crystal clear in Blu-ray.
It's amazing. The transfer definitely makes the film look even more detailed, which is incredible.
I wish they'd re-release this trilogy along with Lord of the Rings and Dark Knight in the cinema. I'd love to see these films in the cinema.
It would be great to see them in the cinema. I think they deserve to be, given the amount of passion and effort that's been put into them.
I like this. Why were you so loved, and why was I so feared? Yeah.
It's very, very sad. You really feel sorry for Michael in this one. He really is trying to move on and let go of his past, but he can't. It's very hard for him with what he did to Fredo.
I like that bit there where he says, I swear in the lives of my children, God, give me a chance to, to redeem myself. Yeah.
Just a bit. Yes. Me too.
I mean, they should re-release this on Lord of the Rings in the Lord of the Rings trilogy in the cinema.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Obviously, the Lord of the Rings then re-released the theatrical cuts, but yeah, it would be still great to see those films on the big screen. Same with this. I mean, these are the sort of films that you need to see on the big screen, I think.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I like how Vincent sort of becomes Michael's apprentice, if you know what I mean. Like Michael becomes his mentor. Like he tells him, calm down, be logical. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I suppose, like I say, it takes him under his wing a bit. So I guess if he finds out about his daughter and Vincent, then he's not going to be a happy bunny, is he?
yeah. Oh, Vincent just said to him he wants to become the Godfather. Yeah.
Yeah. But whether Michael will allow that is another thing.
No. He's not. Michael's no longer the Godfather. Vincent's now the Godfather.
Oh, so he has passed it down then. Oh, good. I guess the burden was still killing him, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting that he says that to him. He says, if you end your relationship with my daughter, you can become the Godfather, but you have to pay the price of ending your relationship with my daughter to become the next Godfather,
Yeah, that is quite a lot of emotional blackmail. But then again, they're cousins, so he shouldn't really be having an affair with his cousin. So yeah, I mean, Michael was probably right to do that.
It's interesting how they made it's interesting how they make him look like Michael from the second film with the slick back hair and the suit. He looks like Michael from the first and the second film.
Yeah, he does a bit. You could tell they're related.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like the end of the first film where they're all kissing Michael's hand. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think Michael's looking at that and seeing his past, and he's like saying, "Oh, that was me all those years ago, and now I'm finally free of this burden, this responsibility."
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't want his family to ever go down the route of being a mob boss.
No, he wants to kind of just put that behind him.
Yeah. I mean, even though Michael's done horrendous things, like he's killed people, he's had his wife's husband killed, he's had his brother killed. Deep down, I think in this film, he proves that he's a good man. He proves that he's trying to redeem himself, and he proves that he's trying to, change as a person. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this opera scene, I think, actually is like the third act of the film. It goes on for quite a while, but it's a really dramatic sequence, I think.
Yeah, if only his son didn't become a musician, then the sister wouldn't have died.
Yeah, Mary would have lived, but I guess Michael needed to have one more taste of tragedy before he could be fully redeemed, and also, yeah, like karma for killing his own brother.
Yeah.
What's your answer? Enjoy the opera.
Yeah, I think Vincent is definitely he's definitely a little bit cocky, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Wow, I love the set for the opera house. It's so gorgeous.
He's cleaning house. You should be careful. Dangerous to be an outsider. Visiterà Corleone. Visiterà gli orfani. Bravo.
Oh, I'll give him a present. Do you think Vincent it really wants to be with Mary? He doesn't want to let her go, does he? Hello? You there, Jack? Jack?
Sorry, I was just getting a drink.
Oh, okay. Oh, no worries.
Sofia Coppola actually acts this scene quite well when Vincent says he no longer wants to be with her.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, deep down, you think he really does want to be with her, but, he's made the promise to Michael that he would end the relationship.
Yeah. The Sofia Coppola acts this scene really well. Like, she's not a great actress, but this is the best scene that she acts in. Like, she does get quite emotional and starts crying, and she's quite good in this scene.
Yeah, you can tell that Mary's really fallen. She's fallen for her cousin.
That line is quite sad. Love somebody else, and she knows that her dad was the one who did this. She looks at her dad like, how could you do this?
Aww. Oh, here we go. The famous opera scene. This is really well directed.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy directed 50 Shades of Grey. Take note.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God. I don't know why anyone will want to direct that piece of trash. I've still got to sit through one more of those damn things. Oh, God.
Yeah.
At least it'll be short. It's the one saving grace.
I wonder if the actor actually did that opera stuff there. Probably not. He probably just mimed it, but
Yeah, it would be impressive if he did do it live then and there.
yeah. I mean, I've never been to opera. Opera doesn't really interest me. Michael, I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah. Michael, I'm gonna make you an omelet you can't refuse.
Don't worry, I'll make sure Mr. J&T is sleeping with the fishes. I was gonna say, thanks for letting me do the Leisure House sketch with the Godfather and all that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no, that was great fun. We I think that skit went down rather well with the audience,
Yeah,
and then we did our
it's
follow up to it in my review of the Gopolis.
yeah. No, thanks for letting me do that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's interesting that Connie is given Eli Wallach's character. It's interesting that Connie's given Eli Wallach's character poison cannolis.
No, not. I thought you said cojones.
Lol. No, cannolis. Lol. We will send our tortured souls to the depths.
God, please don't remind me of that shit. God, cracked in America.
That came out the same year as The Godfather 3, Captain America. What? Jesus. Captain America!
Capitan Americano.
I loved your sketch, Super Mario Brothers.
Thank you, yeah. I didn't wish to fuck Captain America.
I think this the final act in the opera is probably my favorite part of the film.
It really is a very epic finale. And a very tragic finale as well.
Yeah, they're the assassins. Oh shit!
I can't deny though, I'm kind of glad we're almost done because my eyes are trying to close. Oh, I need to stay awake for the end.
Oh, it's just boring you.
No, it's not boring me. Because it's so late. It's like midnight now, so I'll just get through the end and then I can go to bed.
Go to bed? Well,
it's not breakfast yet. But no, I tend to get tired around sort of 11. If I stay up longer than that, I start to feel very drowsy. So sorry, forgive me if I'm not that talkative. I'll try my best.
Oh, it's fine. Hey, it's me, Michael Corleone.
I send them tortured souls to the depths.
Fredo! Fredo!
Frodo.
No, could you imagine Mario on the steps? Luigi gets killed. Luigi! Luigi!
Mamma mia.
I mean, can I ask, if are your parents ever been to an opera or something like that?
I'm sure they have, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. I've been to an opera once. It was okay. The story was interesting, but I did find parts of it to be sort of dull. Operas, the thing is about operas, they do go on a bit. You've got to have a lot of patience because some of them can be 3 hours long or even longer than that. So you've got to have a lot of patience.
I mean, I've never been to an opera, but I think my mum's been to an opera. My mum's really into opera music, and I do think some opera music is quite good, but it's just never been my thing. Like, I'd rather listen to rock or, you know, something like that, like easy listening, like jazz or reggae or disco. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. Each to their own.
Oh shit. I think Vincent's laughing at the scene where the guy bites the other guy's ear. He's laughing at that because he did it earlier to Vincent Lansing.
This is such a tense scene as well.
Oh. It's going to shoot Michael. The thing, like, these assassins don't know that Michael's no longer the Godfather. They don't know it's Vincent that's the Godfather now.
Yeah, this film really deserves a lot more appreciation than it's gotten over the years.
Yeah. I mean, would you rather watch this or would you rather watch Leisure Hive? Stupid question you asked.
Very talented.
Sorry? Oh.
He's very proud of his son. That's for sure.
His son's quite talented.
This must have been so hard to film.
Yeah. Fuck, he killed his own son? Fuck. Oh no, it's not his son, it's another bodyguard. Fuck.
I was going to say, that would be a little bit unkind.
It could be his son, I don't know. He doesn't like his son, that assassin guy. No, I don't think that is his son, no. Yeah, he just killed another bodyguard, I think. Oh god, could you imagine if Fredo appeared in Michael's nightmare? Michael, I send our tortured souls to the depths.
Yeah.
You know, I'd watch this over the prequel trilogy any day.
Yeah. That's true. The Star Wars prequels. Yeah, George, take note.
You know, if this was George Lucas, he'd add Jar Jar Binks in there.
No, if this was George Lucas, he'd write the whole plot around Michael's struggle to pay the bills because of his lack of taxes.
He would have Kay say to Michael, "I truly, deeply love you."
Oh, God. Yeah. He'd literally have like the other mafia tribes coming after Michael because he didn't pay them or something. Something as dumb as that. You know, George is a man of many talents, but his writing is not one of them. He's never been a talented director or writer. He's a visual effects supervisor. That's what he is. He's good with effects, and he's a good executive because he knows what to do with the money. But otherwise, yeah, his creative talents do lack a bit. He does have a vision. Like some of his ideas are great, but others aren't. So yeah, he's a bit so-so, Lucas.
As they said in Dead Ringers, "Hi, I'm George Lucas, Hollywood's most powerful Ewok."
I like that. That's quite good.
It's interesting, all the deaths now. Like that guy, the money got killed, and yeah, a few people are dying now.
Yeah, there's still a fair amount of death in this one, but I think the second is definitely much darker and much more intense. There's so much at stake, but this third one does a good job of following the second.
Yeah. Do you know what would ruin this scene? If Pierce Brosnan and Meryl Streep came on stage and Brosnan started singing to the audience, "So when you need me, darling, can't you hear me? SOS."
Oh God! Again, don't remind me of that crap. Mamma mia!
Mamma mia! They actually say that in the second one. Mamma mia! Good.
Here we go again.
I don't want a third film.
No, what's happening?
We're gonna get a trilogy now.
Yeah. Mamma Mia trilogy.
No, Mamma Mia trilogy. I mean, The Godfather 3. The Godfather 3. Sorry, The Godfather 3.
Yeah. We've only got 20 minutes left, so it's not too much longer.
I mean, this does really well in building up the tension.
Yeah. This scene is very tension-filled.
Yeah, I can't believe it's 30 years old this year.
That's crazy.
Oh shit. The Pope has been poisoned. He's been killed.
Not the Pope.
The Godfather tree.
Yeah. Well, the production values of this opera are very good. Presumably, it's an opera on the on the the resurrection and the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Yeah, it looks like that. Oh shit. He's been poisoned, he's dying now.
Oh dear.
Well, he got his just desserts.
Yep, the prick.
I think my mum and dad saw this in the cinema.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they weren't together at the time, but they told me they both saw in the cinema the third Godfather. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, I can only imagine how spectacular it must have been in the cinema.
Cool.
But thank God that their son is not interested in the mafia. I mean, even if he was, he'd have to answer to Vincent. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't care what people say. I fucking love this film. I'm not ashamed to say that I love The Godfather 3. Bite me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really like this film. It is the weakest for me. It is the weakest, but I'd still give it a pretty high score, of 9 out of 10. I won't give it a 10. I don't think it's that good, but there's a lot going for it. I think it deserves a lot more appraisal.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Shit. Oh shit.
Michael's next. That is an iconic shot.
Oh, of the priest falling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that guy who hanged, that happened in London in real life. They found a guy hanging from a bridge by a rope. Yeah.
God. That is really quite dark. Yay, well done. Well, he thought he just fell asleep.
Yep, he's dead.
That's a pretty handsome production they got going on there. The set for that show is really good. The way it sort of like looks like a hill with all the houses on them.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh god, we're nearly at the end. The probably the most powerful. For me, it's one of the most powerful endings, not just to a film, but just to any trilogy ever. Very powerful ending. But, yeah.
Yeah. Totally. It's sad that, he did have to give her up in the end, but it was for the best. I mean, they're cousins, I guess, even in those days, it would have been frowned upon, your relatives to start having flings with each other.
It's still frowned upon now. Although in some countries, it's not that frowned upon to get together with your cousin. But yeah.
Yeah, I think if it depends on how closely related. If it's like a second cousin, that's not seen as so much as taboo. But First cousins, yeah, I don't think that is allowed. That is incestuous.
Oh god, this scene. Oh dear.
Why are you doing this to me? Oh, oh,
Here we go.
Oh god.
You don't have to do this to me, please.
God. Oh Jesus.
This is tragic.
Oh Lord.
They really sell this, the shock and everything. This is
Yeah.
painful.
So tragic. Oh God. Yeah. He lost the only thing that mattered to him in the world, his daughter.
Oh. And the way he lets out that scream of pain, and it's silent, and then it fades into, like, it just has the music, and then it fades into him actually screaming. That's so well done.
Yes. Look at the pain on Michael's face. The tears, the pain, the yelling.
Oh. God, it's so tragic. There aren't really many words to describe this moment.
I love the flashbacks to the first two films as well.
Michael did redeem himself, but at a cost. Oh.
It's the first and the second film.
This is such an emotional ending.
I kind of like the way it cuts to him as an old man, sort of regretting his life. You know, he sort of as an old man, he's thinking to himself, have I fucked my life up? Have I ruined my life? Have I ruined other people's lives? Yeah.
I guess that's maybe the point of the ending. Maybe it's an ambiguous ending. Maybe does he ever feel like he has redeemed himself because he's had so much pain and losing his daughter, you know, that sort of tore his heart in half, really.
Yeah, he dies alone as a sad old man, all alone. Yeah.
Well, that's the end. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a long ride, but it was totally worth it, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should probably oh, sorry, I need a moment to get over that ending. That was really quite powerful. I'll let you go first and explain your thoughts.
Well, Godfather 3, I mean, this film is very divisive among fans of the first two films. I know a lot of people hate this film. A lot of people say it's garbage, it's shit, it's a terrible way to end the trilogy. But I've never understood the hate that this film gets. It seems that so many people hate this film, and I never understood it. I mean, yes, it's not on the same level as the first two films. It's not as masterful as the first two films, especially the second film, but it's a great film in its own right. You know, it's a for me it's a masterpiece. I mean, the only flaw really I have in it is Sofia Coppola. Her acting is a bit wooden at times, and she's not the best actress. But I think it's a great film. It it you know it basically resolves all the loose threads from the first two films that it brings the trilogy to a perfect end, in my opinion. And I like the character arc of Michael, how throughout the whole trilogy he's descended from good to evil to a demon, and now he's sort of tried to redeem himself. And I like the fact that throughout this third film he's trying to redeem himself, like with everybody. He's trying to get Kay to realize that he's changed. He's trying to get Mary and Anthony, and basically his whole family. He's trying to say to his family, look, I've changed. I've changed as a person. I've changed as a human. And it's powerful. And I mean, I think the story about the Vatican Bank is very interesting as well, like how Michael wants to become completely legitimate. He wants to become completely legitimate. He wants to get rid of the mafia, and he goes to the Catholic Church, and they say to him, you pay us like $700 million, and we'll make you, we'll clean your past, we'll clean your family's past, we'll clean you of all your sins. And I like the fact that Michael's sort of living with that guilt of killing Fredo. Like, he killed his own brother, and he's living with that guilt, and he's trying to redeem himself, not just in terms of his family, but he's trying to redeem his soul. He's trying to redeem himself to God as well. And I think Al Pacino's great, and I think the production design is excellent. The cinematography is beautiful. The soundtrack is great. I think the cast is very good. Diane Keaton as Kay, she's great. Andy Garcia as Vincent Mancini, he's also very good. Um, Joe Mantegna as Joey Zaza. Uh, Eli Wallach is very good. Talia Shire, like they all give excellent performances, and so many great scenes. Like I love the helicopter scene. I love the scene where Michael has a stroke, and then he's trying to you know, tell Vincent to change his ways. And there's a great scene where you know, at the end they're at the opera, and the scene where he confesses to the priest, he confesses his sins to the priest, and the ending is very powerful. I mean, I remember you saying in your review the ending where he loses his daughter, and he cries, and that made you cry, and I could see why. And it's a very powerful end. It's like, I mean, I think I cried at the end of Godfather. Well, I nearly cried, I think, at the end of Godfather 3, and it's a very powerful film. And I don't understand the hate from the critics. Well, I mean, not the critics, but I don't understand the hate from some people. I don't understand why people say it's so awful. Like, I really don't get it. Every time I've watched it, I just don't understand why some people despise this film so much. And for me, I guess you could say the Godfather 3 is like Return of the Jedi. You know, Return of the Jedi is hated by a lot of Star Wars fans. There's a lot of Star Wars fans who love Return of the Jedi, but Return of the Jedi gets hated on by a lot of Star Wars fans as well. And I think Godfather 3, it had such a, high benchmark to live up to, because the first two films are considered two of the greatest films of all time. The Godfather is number 2 on AFI's list of the greatest films of all time. And The Godfather Part 2 is like at number 32 in AFI's greatest films of all time. So The Godfather 3 had such a, it had such a legacy to live up to. And it was 16 years after the second film. And a lot of people had a lot of high expectations. A lot of people had a lot of high hopes and expectations for the film. And I can understand that people were a little bit disappointed after the second and the first film. But at the same time, I think it's great. I think Al Pacino's great. The cast is great. It's shot beautifully. It's got a great soundtrack. It looks great in terms of the visuals. It's got a great story. My one and only flaw is Sofia Coppola. I do think her acting could be very wooden at times, but at the same time, she's far from the worst actress. And I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's a great ending to the trilogy. And the ending's like one of my favorite endings to a film ever, where you see Michael lose his daughter, and then you have the silent scream, and then you hear the scream, and then you have the flashbacks to the first film, the second film. Then he's an old man in a chair, and he falls over, and he dies alone. It's such a perfect way to end the film, and um, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, yeah, it's probably not as good as the first two. I'd still say Godfather 2 is the best in the trilogy, but this is the third best for me. And happy 30th anniversary to the film. And I think it's a classic. I think it's a masterpiece. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I just think it's a great film. And you know what's funny? The ending where Michael loses his daughter. Originally they were going to have an ending where Michael gets shot and he falls down the stairs, and Kay talks to him, and she says, "Oh, Michael, are you dying?" And he says, "No," and that's sort of it. And I'm glad they changed the ending. And I thought they did a great film. And for Francis Ford Coppola to end the trilogy on this, I think he did an absolutely outstanding job. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. There are probably going to be some people who think that I'm crazy for giving it this rating, but the only real flaw I have is Sofia Coppola, and even then, she's far from the worst actress, and she doesn't destroy the film for me. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree and call me mad and call me crazy for saying this, but I'm going to give The Godfather 3 a 10 out of 10.
Wow,
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, well, there's not much I can add to that, really. I'll just say, yeah, I agree with most of what you said, and I'd give it a 9, just because, yeah, Sofia Coppola is not the best actress, and it may not be as polished as the first two, but it's still a very good film, even if it's not as good as the first two, but it's still a really good ending to the trilogy. It's very underrated. Some great dramatic moments, some great acting, apart from Sofia Coppola. Script is good. Al Pacino is very good. Yeah, and great direction from Francis Ford Coppola. Fantastic way to end the trilogy. Yeah, okay. So that's pretty much it, folks. Thank you all very much for watching and listening for this commentary. And thanks to Jack for joining me. And stay tuned for the next commentary, whatever that may be. So until next time, see you around.
Food fight!